Today's topic, after we go through our questions, is exact forms plus tips and tricks. These are commonly asked questions that I answer every day, and we're just going to go over a couple of these to see how we can help. So today we're in our lease management application, and this should all look pretty familiar to everyone, as this has been kind of my go-to application for office hours. You might see that there's a lot going on up in these tables at the top. I'm going to ask you all to please just kind of pay no mind to that. The only things you really need to worry about in this session are document templates and document subtables. So for today, let's go ahead and take a look at this lease record. So as you might see, there's lots of stuff going on here from previous office hour sessions. But today we're going to be going over specifically a few things that go a little bit off the beaten path of a typical exact forms plus setup. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to juicetech.com so you guys can see how to best navigate to the help site. So again, juicetech.com, help, right at the top. If you click on help, it's going to open you up right to our homepage. We have documentation on all of our add-ons, but specifically for Exact Forms Plus, if you scroll down to document creation and go into Exact Forms Plus, we have pretty robust documentation on how to do certain things. But we're going to be going over today in the document templates section how to add a date field that might be generated a little bit differently than how you see it in Quickbase. Typically in Quickbase, you're getting month, date, year, really exactly like this. So we're going to go over how to put it into another format. Super simple. We're also going to go over putting a format to text. So if you want to see how to take a numeric currency field and put that into a text value, as you see here, we're going to be going over that. And some of you might already know the answer to some of these. And then we're also going to be jumping into including images. So those are the three, kind of important, I guess, off the beaten path things we're going to be doing today. And then I've got a couple other side things that I'll be definitely throwing in. And again, if there's anything that interests you or you see here that you might have questions on, please let me know. Something specifically like our formula URL parameters, where we have a lot of different options for you to learn about, how you can really spice up your documents. Something that's been super popular in the past couple months since we've added it is this FN RID equals N, which removes the record ID from the end of your document template name or the document generated document name. So we can go over, adding something like that, as we probably will have a little time at the end. So let me go ahead back into the lease management application, and I'm in leases. And this is just, record one. And we've got some sample information in here. Again, you guys have probably seen this, throughout the time that I've been doing these office hours. But in this generate lease agreement here, I'm going to show you guys the finished product so you guys understand what we're going to do to get there. So again, this is just a regular exact forms plus button, and I'm going to go ahead and click that. And it's going to generate a document for me that's going to be pretty simple, but it's going to have some pretty cool stuff in there that might make a difference to you. So first off, we're just going to show you that we have, your regular fields in here. And you might see that I already have some formatting options in there. I'm going to show you guys how to fix that in a minute. You might see that we have some date time fields in here. I'm going to show you guys how to fix that, followed up by the date, as well as some images in a subtable and images standalone. So we're going to go ahead and go into how to do all this today. So let's close that out and let's navigate to our document templates table. So I'm going to open up this in a new tab, and I might get a little crazy with my tabs, so bear with me. And let's organize this by record ID. It's usually good to understand how the document templates are laid out. A lot of people ask me, what's the best format for my default report? So I'll show you guys that in a minute, but we're going to navigate to record one. The reason why we're doing record one and not one of the 9 other document templates is because I know behind the scenes of this specific button that I'm clicking, if you right click, and you may notice that there's there's gray area around this. I've been told not everyone knows this trick. If you right click on this area around the button or around any field really, but around the button, you'll see edit field properties, and you're going to go into that. This is the parameters of our exact forms plus button. Most of our add-ons have very similar formulas. So this should look familiar whether you have exact forms plus or Excel docs or PDF stamper or one of the many other add-ons. So as I was mentioning, I was saying why clients ask me how I know that it's template 1 that I'm modifying. Well, template 1 is identified here on line 6. TPID equals 1. So that I know is the template that I'm going to be generating. Say I wanted to make a new template. And for this situation, if I were to add a new one, it's likely going to be, a template test. It's likely going to be template 10. Document template 10. You can see that right at the top here. So that's the record ID number of the document templates table. So if I wanted to generate document template 10 instead, I would change this field TPID instead of equals 1 to 10. That's all you need to do to start generating that new document. Now, of course, I would still need to fill out this document template record with my C list, with the template file. I still have to do all that, but I just want to let you know that's a very commonly asked question. How do you change your template ID? That's how you do it. We also have an ability to vary the document template based off of a change in Quickbase field. I can definitely go over that as time goes on, but for now, we're going to try to go through what we have in play for you today. Just because we're here, the other thing that we get all the time is how do I change the file name? Very simply, FN right here, file name. It might seem redundant for some of you experts that are on this call, but for those of you who are new or watching this in the future and you're a first-time customer, FN file name. So I can just call this, instead of EFP document, I could call this, lease document. There can be a space. This is our web version, so no worries with a space. And as of right now, this one is going to also include the record ID after that. So I'll go ahead and save that. Another thing I actually get quite often, I probably should have changed it while I was in there, is people ask me, can I just change the name of this button? You absolutely can. This is just a regular formula URL field. So I'm actually not going to change the label name. I'm going to change the link text name. So maybe I want to say generate lease agreement. And again, I can make this any color I would like. We're going to go with the blue today. And now my button is going to show as blue and generate lease agreement. So long-winded way of saying that's how you get to template ID 1. And let's go ahead back into my document templates. And let's open up template 1. So you see, I've got a lot going on here. I've got my C list as well as my document template. So let's go ahead and open up the document template because we're going to be making some edits to this Word document right now. So I guess I already have it open. So I'll close out the old one and I'll put this to full screen and enable. So something that a lot of our clients really appreciate is the fact that this is just a standard Word document. So if you're familiar with Word and you're comfortable making edits in Word, you should feel totally comfortable making edits to your document template. At the top here, we have just a simple header. This is a static image. This is just static text. All of that, if you have your own formatting, if you're coming already with a Word document, you should feel pretty comfortable that you can use that in your template. What you really need to focus on is putting in the tilde and the field ID followed by a tilde. Just because we're here and because we're talking about it, the field IDs that you're placing on the document free form need to be from a master table that you're identifying. I actually get this more often than you'd think, where people ask or people have provided me document templates, whether it's a new setup or an existing client, where they give me field IDs from 2 different tables. So you might have properties and units where you have, field IDs, 1 through 100, and leases with field IDs 1 through 100. Obviously, there's going to be some overlapping field ID numbers, and people don't realize that you can't just grab fields from many different tables. You have to choose a master table. So right here, we have master table name and master table DBID. You have to be selecting your C-list fields from this table. Whatever the master table is, you have to be sure that you're selecting fields from there. So on my document, as I'll pull it back up, all of these fields, these field ID numbers, are identified in my leases table. So I just want to clarify that, especially for new clients in the future, it must be from your master table. However, if I went down to my STRID here, and this stands for Subtable Record ID, STRID, and then that's the record ID number of my subtable. This is coming from a related table or a child table. That's where you might want to have your items. So if you have, a BOL, and a BOL has items. If you have a quote has items. You might want to be putting those there, as there could be many related records below this as children records. That's what you're going to want to do there, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. I just want to clarify that, and it's a common question. So as you see, we have, the tilde, field ID tilde with underline and bold. As you saw, if I generated this before, it stayed underlined, it stayed bold. So it's going to take whatever formatting you do, just, for a proof of concept, we'll put maybe a highlight on this one, and we'll make this one red. And why not, add some more spice somewhere else, and we'll make this one, 20 size font and put it on its own. So we're messing around with things a little bit here, just to kind of show what you can do. It's going to take whatever formatting, whatever you do in the Word document, it's going to apply that there. And then you will see, I already have on the document here, some of that special conditional formatting that we were talking about as today's topic. So I'm going to go into kind of how you're going to do that. So I'll pull this over to my other screen and open back up the help site. So as I mentioned before, and I think Justin sent the link in, appreciate that, Justin. If you go to our help site and navigate to under Exact Forms Plus, Document Templates, you'll see that we have, some additional information for you to, read through. And if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll end up finding something here for how to do conditional date fields. And if you scroll down just a little further, you'll see how to do conditional numeric fields. So if I want to show, and I'll pull this back over, if I want to show field 131 as, instead of 7,485, but I want to show it as written out 7,485, I can use this formula here. And what probably is best is just to copy it. And what you can do is you can copy it, and I'll pull it down here as well and just paste it right on in. Now it's also important to know that you need to replace this section right here with your field ID number. Not 13, it might be 13, but likely something like 123, or in this scenario, 131. So that's all you really need to change there. You might want to take, your formatting here. I like using this little paintbrush tool. For those of you who don't know, that's a great way to keep the same format throughout your document. You click that paintbrush tool, highlight over whatever you want, and it's going to take the same format. That's a really good word trick. Learn that back in high school. You definitely want to make sure you use that so you keep things all the same, keeps things really simple. So you could add something like that to your document. You may notice that I have the same thing at the top. One thing to keep in mind, please be mindful of the spaces and the characters touching your tildes. So you want to make sure that you don't have space in between the tilde and your field ID. You want to make sure that there's nothing touching your tildes. We won't be able to find those values, and it will cause an error, or you just won't see 131 get populated. You'll see tilde 131 tilde on your document. So you want to make sure that you are mindful of that. So again, if you wanted to put a text of the numeric, you can grab it from here. There's some other ways you could write it out too. I believe this is, the only difference with this is it's not making this uppercase on the beginning. And I believe if you wanted to have euro, you could put the euro symbol. I'm not going to go into any of that right now. And again, if there's just, you want just a regular numeric and not a currency field, you would do the same thing. Just instead of the $sign at the end, you have an N at the end. That's really the only difference, but you know, it's usually probably safest to grab it from the back. And if I think my phone, I'll be able to retire now. Hopefully, this has been long-standing Hong Kong. So if there was something that was already in place, Keith definitely would have given you a try for now. But if you can do this and this works, definitely, you know, we'll be happy with that. So let us know. But this has been around since I've been here. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that does work for you. So if I continue and I pull this document back up, see, I have that there, but let's go now and let's pivot to our date fields. So here's my date here. You might notice that I have 112 next to it. 112 is my date field. And let's scroll up. And you see here, these are the date references. So I have a couple different ways, and it really depends on your use case. So you definitely don't need to, pick any one of these. If you're happy with whatever the regular Quickbase output is, then by all means, please keep that. But if you want to have something like including the month at the beginning, you're going to want to grab this. And again, my recommendation is just take this exactly as is, copy, and I'll go back down here and once again, just paste that right in. Maybe I'll take my paintbrush tool and paint that over. But as always, let's be sure to check what the field is. So I know mine is 112. And let me just show you guys so you have an understanding that I'm not just getting this out of thin air. I have my rent due 112 field here. And this is a date time field. And by the way, here's my 131 from before as we were doing the numeric field. So let's do 112. And I'll update that here. So instead of 126, again, I'm updating this. Instead of 126, we're going to do 2. And that should really be it. You don't need to change anything else. You just need to have the field ID in there. That's why I really recommend, if you just copy and paste, you're going to be, safe instead of trying to type it out. And that should be all good. Now, the very last one of these in my quick tutorial is images. And this is probably the most popular of the bunch to come in. And images have their own tab. So we're going to leave the document templates tag. And we're going to go to EFP, including images. And I'm just going to scroll back up because I scrolled down before. And we have a couple different options. So I always recommend to my clients that they go with the first one. It's tilde, I for image, colon, your field ID number. So for my example, it's going to be 137, colon, 100. And what this is going to do is it's just going to keep the height and width proportional to what the dimensions are of the image already. It's going to look the cleanest. It's going to not be pixelated. I really recommend that. If that doesn't work for you, we have these other options here. This could produce a distorted image. Yeah, we actually even make a note of this. That's just my personal preference. I recommend this as long as your images aren't massive. That should be totally fine. We do also have a little hint here. I'm not going to go too far into this, but if you notice in this important section, maybe we should highlight this a little bit more. If you have a file, so essentially if you have an image and you only want to show that if the file is not blank, you can follow these steps right here. So that's something I'm not necessarily going to jump too far into right now. This is a commonly asked question. If you're using a file attachment field and not all your records have a file in the file attachment field, the document will still render this after exact forms plus completes. So essentially, you'll still be showing those that field ID, which is obviously not preferred. To prevent this from occurring, you want to have a separate formula text field with the following code. So basically, if your file is greater than blank, then show that formula, else show nothing. This is really important to do because you obviously don't want to just show random tilde field ID tildes on your document. So this is what you'd put in there. And assuming that that new field is template 20 or field ID 24, you just want to make sure that you have that before your file attachment. So this is assuming 23, as you see here, 23 is your file attachment field. So you just want to put that before in your C list. And again, your C list is here. That's just a little tip of the trade. So again, I have my 137, excuse me. And let's go back into my lease record. And if I scroll all the way down, we've got Juicy over here, and he's field 137. So we're plotting him on the document. And again, here's 137. Now, say people ask me this often too, say you want it in a footer, you absolutely can do it in a footer as well, and it will continue to go on every page. I'll just put that in there for now, just so you guys can continue to see. But again, I'm using that simple formula where this is going with the colon 100 after it. I think that works best. If you guys have tried other things and it works, definitely feel free to put it in the chat so we know how you do it. But I think for 9 out of 10 clients, that's best practice. All right, so I think that basically covers the template. Now, I almost want to do, see if anyone here is listening, or see if anyone knows one of the most commonly done mistakes, and you wouldn't believe that this is one of the most common mistakes done from here. Anyone? Well, what you would not guess, it's to save the document. I know that seems absolutely crazy, but a lot of people will make their changes and then run back and get all excited and press their button, and the button doesn't work, and they're confused why. Well, that's because you didn't update the document template. So how is Exact Forms Plus or Quickbase supposed to know where the data is? You'd be shocked to know that is so often the case. So now that I saved my document, I almost always recommend File Save As. I can go ahead and choose my file. I'll scroll up to my documents, and I think lease agreement with special tags 1.5, open, and save. All right. So now that I uploaded the most recent version of my document, I can go ahead. I'll just quickly hit refresh, scroll back up, and I have my lease agreement. Now, when I click this, no documents were generated. What the heck? Oh, what else did I do? I hit save before. Silly me. TPID 10. See, folks, even I make mistakes. Template 1. Got to make sure that you're watching those things. That's a quick little debug right there. TPID 1 is what we're generating. All right, let's try that again. Okay, cool. So it looked like everything seemed to work out. Let's go ahead and check. Maybe we could do a little side by side of what we had and what we're doing. That's a little big. Hopefully you guys can all see that. Justin, what do you think? Can you see that?
It's looking quite nice, man. I like that idea.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. So yeah, so here's just a quick preview of it side by side. So you have our text, we have it, our underlined and bolded text, that's our field 111 there. We have our 103, which is a name field. We have 101, which is our address. We have the address in red. We have the city highlighted, looks great. We have our resident. So we then agrees to pay the $12,345. Then again, here we have our format. And if you notice, you have $12,345 and no cents. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Maybe Manal can help me out. I couldn't figure that out right before this meeting on how to get no cents out of there, but we'll take it away per month, starting on 3/31/2023 at 5 p.m., which I don't love. I'm going to show you guys how to change that in a second. And then we have it spelled out for us. So if you notice here, I have my date formula, and my date formula spits out March 31st, 2023 written out. That might really work out well, especially if your documents are a little bit more professional. And continued, we have our very large 9 12/8/2016, that feels like forever ago. Really, 2013 feels like forever ago. And again, you have some italicized at the bottom. We didn't really touch much of that. Here are the two options. I just put it again at the bottom so you guys can see it standalone. Here's the 12,000. Here's that date. And of course, here's my image. But this is actually in my footer, believe it or not, right here. We got Juicy. I didn't go over the subtable yet. I'm going to do that next. But again, this is my actual image under the subtable. So if you notice here, STRID equals 5, subtable, image, and then probably Juicy again, and in my footer. All right, cool. Everything's looking good. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that subtable for a second, because I feel like this is probably a good transition right now. I don't know why this actually came to my mind. I actually was on a call just yesterday with a client who had a user field. So I'm going to do this quick. I think this kind of falls under the same realm as what we were talking about. So this is field 150. If I right click and edit the field properties, this is just a user field. And something about user fields is a little bit different with Quickbase, where when it comes into Exact Forms Plus, it might not show exactly how you're expecting. So let me just actually throw it in there so we could all take a look at that first. And again, just bear with me for a second as I quickly save this, just so I can show you what's going on. And I'll hit that again. Now, I'm going to have to make one change here. Pat on the back to anyone who knows what I'm going to have to do. It's pretty simple. Anyone? No winners? Wish we had some people jumping out. 150 in your C list. Please make sure to add any field that you're adding to the C list. All right, so let's close out the old one. And let's go ahead and generate this. And I'm going to be an error, just so you guys know. So there you go. What is this? That is not the name of the user field. That's garbage. So what you're going to want to do when that happens, and that will happen every time with the user field, is you're going to want to make a quick formula, and Quickbase does have a fix for this. You're going to do user to name, and then you're going to reference that user field. That happens all the time. So if you're trying to include a salesperson's name, or an account executive or a customer success manager, whatever it might be on your team that you want to include on the document, and you want to include their name, please be sure to make this user to text field. So I probably should have just spent a second longer and added that, but that's okay. Let's change 150 to 151. We'll save that again. And I like to save as every single time. I find that there's occasionally caching issues. So I find when you change the file name completely, you really lessen the chance of that happening. Okay, we're going to change 150 to 151 and hit save. And quickly regenerate that again. And let's see how that looks. And we'll scroll down, and there it is. Much better. So that should look good. And again, this will function as just any other field. That's just a regular formula text field in Quickbase. Just a quick username, user will work just fine every single time. But I get that question quite often, so I thought, hey, why not include it? So you might have seen my, you might have seen my subtable. And I think that's probably where we're going to go from here. So let's open back up my document templates. And as any of you who have Exact Forms Plus know, the document subtable table always gets created with it. And that's kind of like the child table. That's the subtable. And we give you a button called Add New Document Subtable. And I do have one here with this really scary settings line that I would never, ever expect anyone to know how to do, although people do know how to do it, which props to you. and you could open that up, and I'm going to tell you a few things about this. So the settings line is actually what's going on behind the scenes. That's what we're building here with this edit subtable configuration button. That's kind of like our little trick. It's going to be really good, so we're going to use that. And the template reference, as you probably already saw as I was going through the template, is tilde, STRID equals, and then the record ID of the subtable. So if I made another one, it would be STRID equals 6. If it's your first one, it's going to be equals 1. You're just going to take that exactly as is and place it right into your document template wherever you feel you should have a subtable. So if I wanted to break this up a little bit, and I'll do it just for giggles, I want to throw it in there and move it over. I'll put it in there as well. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But for now, let's go ahead and let's make that subtable. All right. So if I hit edit subtable configuration, you'll see our subtable configurator come up. Now this configurator is already pre-set up a little bit, so I'm just going to go through the steps, and I've probably already done this in other videos, but I think it's important to talk about here as well. For this one, I'm pulling over images. So my master table, and some people don't know that this is found at the top, my master table is leases, as you should already know. And my subtable here, out of the tables in my application, I'm picking inspection images. And let me quickly tell you why. If I look at leases and I hit settings and I do table-to-table relationships, leases has a one-to-many relationship with inspection images, which means when I hit the next button, there's going to be a pre-created filter or query, which will come up with all of the related images to this lease. If I were to pick another table, which I could do in a second, this would come up blank, or another table that was not in the relationship at all. It would come up blank, and you would have to pick the query criteria where you can query records by document type, is something like inspection. You could do that and add filter. So that actually is relevant to this one, so I could keep it, but I'm going to remove it for now. But if you have it as the related tables, you're going to be probably better off. It's not that you can't do it. It's just this is much easier than any other way. All right. So if I hit next, after I have my filter criteria, you see that I have all of the fields from my subtable, from my inspection images table. A lot of people have asked me, can I filter these? Of course, you can filter by field ID if you just hit field ID. So now it's in numeric order. You could take that and do, reverse and just click it to go back to where it was. And then as well as, something like order, say I selected these two fields as well. If I wanted to change the order, some people will, do it like this. That's not really the best way to do it. My recommendation, see, I'm messing with it too much. My recommendation is to grab it and drop it. So if I want to push that to the top, you just throw it to the top. So there's this little drag and drop option here. Drag it, drop it. That's my recommendation. I'm just going to cancel changes for now. We don't want to do that just yet. And let's see what we have here. The name, it's usually filtered by. You don't have to touch that. The type is actually quite important. I wish I had a numeric field with decimals so I can show you guys what to do with that, but I'll just talk to it now. If this related lease had decimals and you wanted to have those shown, this type column here, if you hit drop down here, we have some additional options for you to choose from. But if you hit float, and I'm not going to go ahead and do that because it's telling me to check it into the group first. But if you hit float, that's going to essentially allow us to continue using the decimals. In all likelihood, it's going to come up as currency or numeric, and it's actually not going to be looking for those decimals. So if you want decimals, use float. If you want HTML, use HTML, text, percent, image, It's usually 9 out of 10 times going to be pretty good. It's going to know exactly what field type it is and give you the correct output. So you won't need to touch that. But in case that does come up, it's good to know that you can do that. Followed here, this column, we have width. Again, this is the width in pixels. Hey, Justin, how many pixels is an inch?
You know, Matt, there was a period where I had this memorized to a science. I believe it's 72, correct?
It is 72.
Haha!
I knew Justin knew that one. So about 72 pixels is an inch. It's always good to have that in your mind. So if I were to show you that sample document again, this is that same subtable. So let's go ahead and show these side by side. It's not going to allow me to do that. Let's try that again. Did it so easily before. So if I show you here, this is that subtable again that we have here. So 100 pixels is coming out about this size. So, obviously for this one, it's not very large, so we don't need to have it be bigger. So let's say instead of 100, let's do 72. Let's do about an inch. For images, you may notice that we have a little bit of a space here that might be a little too large, where we have, document right in the middle. So let's go with 150 instead. We might be cramming that in there a little bit, but let's tell. And one of the other last things I want to show is instead of document type, you might want to have that be type. So you can override the column label right here. One of the most common ones is, you might have the field named as, quantity spelled out, but you might want to have it as QTY. That happens almost every day. There's a lot of different naming criteria for how you name Quickbase fields. You might have like, JT for Juice Technologies _ field ID name. Obviously, you don't want to have that within your document, or you don't want to have that in your subtable. So you can take that out here without actually changing the name in Quickbase. That's definitely something to include. Include item counter. I actually got to ask this today too. What does include item counter do? So we're just going to check that on so you guys know. And include as first column. So essentially what this is going to do is just give me a 1, a 2, and a 3 on the left, or a 1, a 2, and a 3 on the right. Advanced settings. Field width you can change here. Column label you could change here. We're not going to go into any of that. Obviously you can see some more. We're just going to leave that as is. And lastly, the advanced settings. You can really get kind of crazy here. Something that I do want to show is, let's see, I guess this is my only numeric one. I wonder if this will work. In a numeric or a currency field, when you click advanced settings, you have the option to subtotal and grand total. And again, that's just for numeric and currency fields, and maybe float. We can find out right now, instead of saying maybe, and float. You can click to subtotal an option. Now, subtotaling a related lease field, which is really a record ID number, obviously doesn't make much sense. So we're not going to do that now. I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that was there. And I'm going to go ahead and save my changes and click next. These are all document type inspection. Can you make edits to the style of all your fields at once? Alexis, that is an awesome question that I don't believe we can do, unfortunately. I believe every one of these are standalone. I have definitely gotten the suggestion before to have a universal settings as well as the advanced settings, like almost like a universal settings button up here. Keith, if you're watching this in the future, but yeah, unfrowny face. We're going to turn that frowny face into a smiley face, promise. That will come eventually. We are kind of looking into configurator changes now, so would love that as well. Yep, I agree, as I do a lot of these setups. This is something I do every day. So I definitely have made those changes myself to several different advanced settings fields. So it definitely would be nice to have a universal advanced settings. Something here is in this report link, this document subtable report link, just quickly customize this form. And when you look at the document subtable here, and we're displaying this record picker, I recommend changing the settings, opening this up. And, we have settings, configuration name, template reference. What you could actually do is you could do a list all. If you hit list all on that and hit save, it's going to show you this EFP configurator button, which is essentially the edit button. So this is the edit button from the subtable. So you don't have to click into this to hit edit. A lot of people like that. That allows you to kind of remove document subtables from your table bar too. It might save you some space. So I definitely recommend putting that at the list all. Now, when you hit edit subtable configuration, we're able to kind of jump back into here. Again, you can jump around here. Let's do the advanced settings on this and change that to 15. Apply changes, save changes. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and stop my share. I appreciate you guys all coming. We appreciate you guys' time and everyone coming to office hours. We will be back next week with a new topic. We'll let you know then. And we hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day and rest of your week. And thank you very much.